The sands of time ravage all.
The first DLC race for Total War Warhammer 2 will be the Tomb Kings, and we've actually played them already. In fact, there's an almost 40-minute video on the channel right now where I play a few turns on the campaign map alongside one of the lead designers at Creative Assembly, Rich Aldridge. It's fun, we kill loads of orcs. But what makes the Tomb Kings especially different, you might be asking? They're undead, alright, sure, but does that mean they play like the vampire counts? And how exactly do they fit into the Vortex campaign of Warhammer 2? Well, my inquisitive friend, let's chat some more about an ancient civilization buried beneath the sand.
What's that? Shh. I can hear something. Come here, quiet.
Here's what I think you need to know about the Tomb Kings before they release on the 23rd of this month. Number 1, we'll start with a big one. Their units cost nothing to recruit, and once they're in your army, they'll also require no upkeep. And that sounds thematically appropriate, of course. The Tomb Kings are meant to command a vast army of undead warriors that are sworn to carry out their master's bidding. But how does it work in game? Surely that makes the Tomb Kings hugely overpowered compared to the other Warhammer races. Well, there are two major limitations to consider. First of all, there's a limit to how many specialized units you can field at one time, like the skeletal chariots, for example. If you want to have a couple of those in one of your armies, you'll need to build the Bone Shaper in one of your cities. And if you want more than just a couple of those chariots, you'll then need to upgrade the building or build another Bone Shaper somewhere else. This is where you'll be spending most of your gold, I guess, on infrastructure. Number 2, but there's also another limitation, and that's to do with your army cap. As your campaign starts, the Tomb Kings can only manage just a single army led by whichever legendary lord you picked. And to increase that cap, you'll even need to spend a small fortune via the Mortuary Cult. Remember, the Tomb Kings have a tiny gold income compared to other races, so 10,000 gold is no joke. Alternatively, you can unlock additional army capacity via your research tree, known as the dynasties in this case. Each dynasty that you research will take 15 turns, and once unlocked can then open up the option of researching a unique lord to lead that force. I really like this idea as it taps into that theme of the Tomb Kings trying to progress by looking backwards at their own history. They've forgotten more than most of the modern races have learnt. Number 3, actually there's a little more to say about the Mortuary Cult before we move on. It's not just used to increase your army capacity, it's also a marketplace for a whole variety of magical weapons, armour and items, as well as the Legions of Legend, which are described as similar to the Regiments of Renown, but on a whole nother level. They're exclusive to the campaign and require not just gold, but can now pick jars, which is a resource that's unique to the Tomb Kings, as well as the player having access to certain trade resources. That sounds kind of cool to me as well, because it means capturing a territory that has access to iron or trading someone that has access to that resource feels more important. And they've taken that idea straight from the Civilization games, and you know what? I've got zero problems with that. Number 4, the Warhammer 2 campaign, so far at least, has focused on the Great Vortex, with each of the 4 starting races, the High Elves, Dark Elves, Lizardmen and Skaven, vying for control of it. If you play as the Tomb Kings, however, this is no longer your objective. In fact, although it will remain on the campaign map, the other races will ignore it too and revert back to a campaign in which they seek to control as much territory as possible, rather than racing for the Vortex objectives. The Tomb Kings, however, have their own goal. They seek to control the Books of Nagesh. There are 9 of them in total, spread across the New World, and have various requirements for obtaining them, including quest battles, city captures, and the like. And they also offer different rewards to your campaign, which are, to some extent, randomly generated. In order to win your campaign, you'll need to control at least 5 of these books, and that's one of the major incentives for leaving your desert and spreading out into the world of the living. Number 5, additionally, if you want to win your campaign, you'll also need to capture the Black Pyramid of Nagesh, which is initially controlled by a faction called the Sentinels. They'll offer a pretty decent challenge, so you'll want to build your empire to some extent before then turning your attention back to their city, and there's also something big planned for the campaign's finale, we're told, which I'm just going to hazard a guess at here and say probably involves a massive battle. Who knows? Number 6, the Rise of the Tomb Kings doesn't offer a mini-campaign as we've seen with past DLCs like the one for the Wood Elves or the Beastmen. Instead, the Tomb Kings offer 4 different legendary lords to choose between, including Setra the Imperishable with his iconic chariot, Grand Hierophant Ketep, the priest responsible for bringing back the Tomb Kings in their undead state. Setra isn't best pleased with him as he'd hoped for a rather different type of immortality, and so Ketep has been banished to a desert up in Nagaroth, the home of the Dark Elves. You've also got High Queen Khalida, who bloody loves snakes and bloody hates vampires. And speaking of vampires, here's an interesting one. Arkham the Black. He's another lord that's been exiled and is very much in the service of Nagesh, not Setra. Throughout the campaign, you will receive a significant hit to any relations with other Tomb King's factions, but a significant increase to your relation with the vampire counts. More than that, and this is a first in the Total War Warhammer world, Arkham can even recruit some units from the vampire counts roster, as well as the expected Tomb King forces. Interesting. Number 7, and finally, while we're talking Legendary Lords, on the 23rd of January, when this DLC launches, we'll also be seeing a free update to Total War Warhammer 2, which will introduce a third Skaven Legendary Lord, Tretch Craventail. This guy's got some fantastic unique traits, including a public order boost whenever you break a diplomatic treaty, which is just the most Skaven thing I've ever heard of, and he can also deploy his entire army in vanguard positions, which means you can potentially start much, much closer to an opposing force in a battle. Okay, I'll admit, this wasn't really something you needed to know about the Tomb Kings themselves, but I thought it was worth a mention. Free updates, man. You can't say no to a free update. And there we are. If you would like to see more from this next Total War Warhammer race, I'd recommend once again that you take a look at the Let's Play we recorded with its lead designer. Plenty more detail over there and a decent scrap with some savage orcs. Thanks for watching, and we shall see you tomorrow. Goodbye.